What's good, Combat Sports fans? It's your boy Bando back at it with another episode of Combat and Kick It, and I don't even know what specifically I am discussing today. I'm just back with a fresh episode because I got to keep it active. So, it kind of sucks. I had a full-on breakdown episode for UFC Mexico City, and I'm sitting there eating dinner. I'm about 30 minutes away from the fights, and I'm like, I never ever edited and posted my UFC Mexico City card, my whole breakdown. Never posted it. So here's the thing. First and foremost, my parlays missed. So luckily for you, you didn't get to even witness the bullshit. So see, we're all good. No, parlays missed. I went back, watched some of the card because I actually didn't see the whole card. Went back, watched the highlights. The most that I can take away from that UFC Mexico City card was Brian Ortega's got a lot of heart. Shout out to him. A long process of coming back from a very tough injury, and then he was coming back returning against the guy who injured him too. So a lot of mental game being played in your own head. You know what I'm saying? You're dealing with it from your own. Like, it has nothing to do from the outside. It's all on your own. And he had a lot of shit to deal with going from the injury into this fight. Almost injuring himself before the fight, jumping up and down. If you saw, he was jumping up and down and he rolled his ankle a little bit. Almost hurt himself before the fight even started. Then faces a lot of adversity in the first round. Yair was piecing him up, doing very well, knocked him down. You know, Yair on the feet is very, very, hard to read. He doesn't really telegraph anything. His kicks are beautiful. His punches are nice. So, it's not a surprise that he was putting the work to Brian. I had the expectation that he was going to put the work to Brian all the way through, especially stand-up wise. But the thing about it is, if you don't get a guy like Brian out of there, you have to be able to continue to do what you're doing for 5 rounds. Max Holloway wrote the blueprint for it. Alexander Volkanovski, same thing. Like, these guys, you notice if you can't get him out, you have to continue to do what you're doing to him, right? You're not going to finish him. You got to continue to do what you're doing to him. And if you give him any moment, any opportunity to be able to utilize his grappling, that's where Brian is the best. So Brian got the fight to the ground, got a beautiful submission on Yair, and got the finish. And now Brian Ortega is back in the win column. So what's next for that man at featherweight? No one really knows. I've seen a couple people say, oh, does he get next title shot? And I think people are just trying to rush that because of what just happened with Volk, right? And you don't know, maybe Volk might be sitting out for 6 to 8 months just to get a little break, because in my opinion, he definitely needs it. But it's one of those things where people are now like, oh, he's got to be next in line, right? He's got to be next in line. I don't see him being next in line, right? I get it. There's nobody else really in 145, but you run that rematch back with Volk. Give Volk the time. Run that rematch back. Now, if you do force a Brian fight in there against Aaliyah, could be interesting. But guy comes back after a long layoff, after a tough injury, comes back, gets the win, puts himself back in the win column, and you immediately want to throw him in the title picture. That's tough. Would you guys have done that with Paulo Costa if Paulo Costa beat Robert Whittaker? I don't think so. So it's one of those things. I get the 145-pound division doesn't have much for it, though. There's not many guys in the top of the division that are, like, making statements. You know what I'm saying? So we'll see what happens. But good win by Brian Ortega. And I didn't really get to see much of Brandon Moreno versus Brandon Royval, but I gotta say, I am shocked that Brandon Moreno couldn't get it done. Now, I don't know if it was a robbery. I don't know what. I don't know if that split decision was close, if it was favorable for Brandon Royval, if it should have been in Moreno's favor. I see a lot of people said that Royval just did more work, was doing more on the stand-up, and I also read a lot of things that was saying that Moreno did not look himself. Always a possibility. Always a possibility. We do know he was prepping for Amir Albazi. But the fight got canceled right after Brandon Royval got done fighting Pantoja, and he was not in an easy fight with Pantoja. He was in a war with Pantoja. So to think Moreno having a layoff, then Royval coming out of a war. Not only that, Royval showed his weakness, getting taken down numerous amounts of times against Pantoja. You would have thought that would have been Brandon Moreno's go-to in the fight. I guess it wasn't, and Royval got the split decision. I'm going to have to watch that back. What I originally wanted to do was come and do a whole watch through of the Brian and Yair fight, and then the Brandon and Brandon fight, but I feel like it just would be such a long video. That's like a 40-minute video, and I don't know if you guys are trying to sit through that. And to be honest, I also don't even notice copyright stuff. What's copyrighted? What's not? What am I going to get flagged for? What am I not going to get flagged for? I don't even know. I guess probably because I'm not making any money off this, so it really doesn't matter. What I say, what I do, or kind of like, you know what I mean? But who knows? Who knows? So much different stuff. Like my one video got flagged just in Russia because it had Outcast at the beginning of it. So I don't know. Copyright stuff is very strange, but I don't even know if I could watch the fights and put a little clip of you being able to see the fight as well. But yeah. So come through with the quick review of that. Like I said, I really didn't get to witness it. I probably had one of the busiest days of work I've ever had, and when I came home, the likeliness of my eyes staying open, nah. Sometimes it just happens like that, bro. You can't fight the sleep sometimes. The sleep gets you, and the sleep got me. Oh my gosh, it snagged me. I woke up, it was like 12:30. I'm like, oh fuck, the fights are over. I was like, shit. So I didn't even get to see him. It happens. It happens. It ain't the first fight card that I missed. I missed a lot. I'll be missing this weekend too. Best believe that. Look, let's do that. That'll be our discussion real quick before I get into the next part of the video. For a quick little segment, let's talk about overstacking UFC cards. Is it a thing? Right? Is overstacking a card a thing? Yes. Yes, it is. I love stacked UFC cards. I always have, right? I always thought that was the one thing that UFC has over boxing, right? When you go to watch a boxing event, it's headlined by the top two. You get a decent co-main with some guys you know, and everything else. They're not scrubs. They're just not very well-known fighters, right? So you sit there and you look at it and you're like, all right, I'm paying, if you pay the pay-per-views, you pay $100, 85, 70, whatever the fuck it costs, $70 to $100, right, for a pay-per-view for one big fight for boxing. But for UFC, you at least get a stacked card, majority of the time. But here's the biggest issue with stacked cards. You have to find the balance with stacked cards. Do you want a completely stacked card like UFC 299, UFC 300, and you completely stack these cards and have boring, lackluster Apex Saturdays for fight nights and stuff like that? Do we really need those anymore? Does anybody really want these Apex events anymore? Like, I don't know how I'm feeling about the Apex events anymore. I feel like you're just throwing us cards, right? Which is cool. I like watching fights. I will never complain about watching fights on a weekend, right? But you're just throwing us cards just to get them out there, right? I don't see nothing wrong with taking a weekend off, and instead of having this as a main event for Rosenstruck, you put them on a pay-per-view card with fans in the stands, right? To me, it's just there's more to it, right? There's a lot more to it. I think what happens, you stack these cards and you end up having, like I said, lackluster fight nights, which sometimes you get bangers on those. I'm not acting like you don't. I'm not acting like these are a bunch of shitty fighters or anything like that. I see more. I don't know, more in store for the fighter himself to be on a pay-per-view card in front of a giant crowd instead of just forcing these little cards in to get guys on main events at an Apex event. I just don't see anything that really is big about that anymore. And I think it's starting to be too much. If you're going to stack the events, cool, stack them, but we don't need that many free fights anymore, right? Or I guess I should say in between, right? So we just had a beautiful card that could have been a pay-per-view style card with UFC Mexico City, right? You could take this weekend off, and all the people that are on this card, you can put them into the next few cards, right? You have this big pay-per-view coming. UFC 299 is stacked. It's stacked to the gills. My breakdown of that will come soon. But that card is stacked to the gills, right? You have that, and let's see what else you have after that. You know, it's a tough balance. It really is a tough balance, because people want to see obviously a stacked card, right? So you get this one like 299, and then your next free fight is Tai Tuivasa and Marcin Tybura. Why don't you throw them on a bigger card? Why don't you just skip that weekend, right? And then you do the next weekend, the UFC Fight Night with Amanda Ribas and Rose Namajunas, and you throw a couple of those fights on this card that's got a little bit more to it. It's got Carl Williams versus Junior Tafa, Edmund Shabazian going up against Dusko Tudorovic. So you get a couple names. And then you got another one. You got Aaron Blanchfield and Minot Ferro. Is anybody really going to sit through looking to jump with joy because that free Saturday is Aaron Blanchfield versus Minot Ferro? No disrespect to either of those women, but is that a main event that you're trying to see? No, throw that on a fucking pay-per-view card and get them more money and put them in front of fans. I'm so tired of seeing the Apex events with no fans. These people want to fight in front of fans. See now, like, look, from after UFC 299, we have Tuivasa Tybura, free. Ribas Namajunas, free. Blanchfield Ferro, free. Vettori vs. Allen, free. All before UFC 300. You can do, I don't know, you can put all those into one. We can take weekends off. I love watching fights. It's crazy that I'm complaining about weekends of fights, but I don't know. I think there's more in store for the fighter in their own way if they fight on a pay-per-view card in front of fans. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong, right? If I was in Vegas, I would sit at an Apex event. I would watch an Apex event. And look, I know these fighters. I know the people on these cards, except for this weekend. Surprisingly, this weekend, it's not even showing. It's not even showing. I can't even look. It's not even showing. Just give me the UFC 299 so we can do the full breakdown. We can get legitimate with it real quick. You know what I'm saying? We can get something good in there, right? Rosenstruik versus Gaziev. I got Rosenstruik by knockout. I could be wrong. Am I going to watch the fight? Maybe. Is there boxing on this weekend? Maybe. Right? If it's at that point, like, I'll just go watch boxing, some unknown boxing guys at least if they're both free, I'll watch some unknown boxing guys for free. Then watching these forced cards. The reason they put it in the Apex is because they know in itself these fights can't sell arenas. And that's not disrespecting these fighters, right? The more you fight on Apex cards, the less people are going to see you. You got to understand that it's not always about catching the guy like me's attention, right? I'm already watching. You ain't got to pull me in. I'm already watching it. Any UFC fan, any MMA fan, they're watching already. So you don't have to pull them in, right? It's the outside fan that doesn't normally watch the sport that you have to pull in. And you're not going to pull them in by Apex events. Just saying. And that's that. I don't even know how long I spent on ranting on that. Probably too long. But yeah, that and fighter pay. If you know me from the past, I've never been a dude that's complained about fighter pay. But it's starting to get to me. You see, Dana White will give somebody, some Nelk boy, cornback. I'm not even going to get into it because I'll say too many bad words. I'll probably get flagged. But he gives these guys $50,000, $100,000, $150,000, $200,000, $250,000 for fucking nothing. Right? You got a guy like Henry Cejudo, a two-time champion. I don't even think he made 150,000. Actually, I think that is what he made. I think he made 150,000. Henry Cejudo made 150,000 this last fight, this last pay-per-view. Now, yeah, he lost. I get it. I get it. But why is a professional athlete that is fighting in one of the most dangerous sports, who is an Olympic athlete, who is a two-division champion, right, getting paid $150,000? Does it make sense? It doesn't make sense. You gift the Nelk boys $250,000 for their birthday, and you give Henry Cejudo $150,000. An Olympic champion, a two-division champion, and this is coming from a guy who's not even a Henry Cejudo fan. That's all I'm saying. In my opinion, you should take the bonuses up. The bonuses should be way up. You can either incentivize the bonuses to where it's like, oh, if you get a KO, it's this amount. If you get a submission, it's this amount. If you get performance of the night, it's this amount. Or you just boost that shit in general. No person fighting in a championship fight should be making, under $500,000. It's a championship fight, right? So no matter what, I know Henry wasn't in a championship fight. I'm just talking in general. But if you really look at it, right, the low-level athlete in the MLB is getting paid more than a lot of these guys. Low-level football players getting paid more than a lot of these guys. Contracts are different. Granted, they are different, but you sign for a certain amount of fights, for a certain amount of money, right? But I just think the overall pay grade, it just needs to open. It just needs to be a little bit bigger, right? 20,000 a show, 20,000 a win. No, you got to scratch that. Whoever is at that base of 20,000, that needs to at least be 60,000, at least, right? And then take the performances up, right? You give an opportunity to a guy who, you get these guys from places where they're coming from absolutely no financial background, no money whatsoever, right? If you tell one of these guys that knockout of the night gets $150,000 bonus, that they're not gonna go for the knockout. If performance of the night is $150,000 bonus, you don't think they're gonna go and put on a show? Really, think about it. $50,000 at this point. John Jones in Rampage got paid $75,000 because Rampage talked Dana White into it. There's a little clip that went viral for it, but it would have been $50,000 for their performance of the night or their fight of the night. $50,000, and that was back in what, 2012, 13? I don't remember, but almost 10 years ago, 10 years or more. I don't remember exactly how long ago it was, but that's a long time ago. You think that the fucking bonus shouldn't change from 50 G's? 75 G's? No. 100 G's, man. 100 G's, and give some sort of bigger bonus for something. Performance of the night, boom, you go. Everybody knows you get 100,000, but I'm gonna match that. Because Dana, it doesn't hurt your pockets, buddy. You know that for a fact. You know it for a fact, guy. It doesn't hurt your pockets at all. So, fucking make the bonus a bonus. Simple as that. So, those are my rants for tonight. That's pretty much it. I just needed to make an episode and get an episode out. So, that is the end of this episode. I appreciate you for watching. You know what to do. Do all that YouTube stuff. Like, comment, subscribe. Hit the bell notification button if you enjoyed this video and you want to see more coming from me. Because there will be more to come. So, make sure to stay tuned. I will catch you guys on the next episode. Your boy is out. Peace.